sad. No matter what the problem, well, I can go through the rock. Jesus, my way maker. Jesus, my strong tower. Jesus, my heart fixer. I can go to the rock. I can go now to the rock. No matter where I can go to the rock. Jesus, my heart fixer. Jesus, my heart fixer. Jesus, my way maker. Jesus, my way maker. Jesus, my strong tower. Jesus, my strong tower. Jesus, my heart fixer. Jesus, my heart fixer. Jesus, my way maker. Jesus, my way maker. I can go to the rock. I can go now to the rock. No Things always
Unanswered, Lord. Unanswered.
better.
Yes. My God. Unanswered. Unanswered.
We put them in the right hands. Challenges, the successes, the obstacles, the ownership, whatever we have, it serves us better when we put it in the Master's hands.
Yes, sir.
Amen.
Yes,
We
sir.
want to thank the choir for ministering to us in such a wonderful way. Our selection of text for today's message is coming from Acts chapter 3. The Acts of the Apostles, chapter 3. And the book of Acts is a very exciting book of the Bible. It's filled with a lot of action. It shows the birth and the growth of the church, ecclesia, the people who belong to the Lord. It is a good book. Book of Acts is to be read all the way through. Amen. You will certainly be blessed.
Amen. Amen.
In chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, reads, "Now Peter and John went together into the temple at the hour of prayer, being the 9th hour. And a certain man, lame from his mother's womb, was carried, whom they laid daily at the gate of the temple, which is called Beautiful, to ask alms of them that entered into the temple." We would like to use this subject. At the church, but not in the church.
Right now. Preach.
At the church, but not in the church. The occasion of our text is dealing with the temple of God. And the original first temple was constructed by King Solomon, son of David, who reigned over the United Kingdom of Israel and Judah. The temple was built the second time by Governor Zerubbabel, and he constructed the temple that had been demolished. And now the third temple is what we are dealing with in our text. It was built by Herod Agrippa, Herod the Great. And this third temple is where this lame man was taken every day, given, I would imagine, a silver cup, not with tea or coffee in it, but for the purpose of begging for alms or for donations. And I was captured by this text inasmuch as he had been transported there from the time of his birth. He was born lame. He was born lame. I would imagine that during the time of his growth, that his family members, at least one or two, had to stay there with him and to help him to retrieve donations from the folk that went in the temple during the ninth hour, the hour of prayer. I didn't think that was me popping there. And so he was taken there daily. I was captured by the fact that during the ninth hour, every day, the folk went to pray. The ninth hour, translated, is 3:00 p.m. Every day, they was there to pray. Ain't that something? And you know it's hard to get folk now to come in for an hour and a half once a week to say their prayers. In our day and time, more folks send requests for the Lord, send requests for the Lord to bless them than they go themselves. And I wonder how much faith is in a prayer that you send for somebody else to pray for you to get a blessing. Seem like the least that could be done is that you could go to the prayer service and make the request for folk to pray for you. Yes, sir. Somebody said, well, my kinfolk is ill. Some years back when the casinos was being legally put into place, you know, they always had gambling at these late night places. Some of y'all been to, you know what I'm talking about. And they showed one I remember very clearly. That was folk going to the gambling house in wheelchairs. Some with crutches. A lot of them had canes, walking with a dip in their step. And nowadays, it's just hard. Folk want blessings, but they don't want to come to prayer service. They want the Lord to bless them, but they will not come to prayer service. I would imagine that this lame man would have starved to death if he had brought his cup to the door of the churches in our day during the hour of prayer. Or he would not been able to get too much because there would not have been too many folk there. And so this baby that now has become a man, and he was never able to get inside of the temple. They would bring him to the gate called Beautiful, very expensive gate made out of pure brass. They would put him there. Those folk in that day loved to go through that door to the temple. There was other doors. And so for years, this fellow was able to gain enough for his survival. I would imagine that as time went by, he did not need his family to babysit him no more. And lo, during the era after the church had been inaugurated, the Jews that had become Christians were still going to the temple to worship. Yes, sir. In fact, in our text, Peter and John was on their way to prayer service. To prayer service. Shame on you if you don't go to prayer service. Peter and John was on their way to prayer service, and they also wanted to enter the temple through the gate called Beautiful. And so as they approached this gate, they saw this lame man who was a baby. They probably had seen him before at this gate. But on this occasion, Peter and John, when the lame man shook his cup and cried out, "Alms, alms," Peter and John said, "Gold and silver we don't have, we are broke." You know, it's not unusual for a believer, for a preacher, prophet, to be broke. This is a faith walk. And sometimes God allows us not to have so our faith can build. You can't get much faith in the sunshine. But when you get caught on the sea in a storm, pray a little bit better. hope a little bit more. Reach for God with a longer reach.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, oh Lord. Yep.
And all of the great miracles in the Bible, many of them resulted from those who was recipient of the miracles from having a negative situation to deal with. The Hebrew boys. King Nebuchadnezzar said, now boys, if you do what I tell you, I won't put you in the fiery furnace. But God allowed them to get cast in the furnace. That's when their faith became paramount. Fire didn't burn, they was taken out. Daniel in the lion's den, the lions didn't bite. Jonah in the fish's belly found a pocket of air to survive. So if you are having some trouble now, you are in good position for faith to come to your rescue. Faith the size of a mustard seed is able to move mountains. Peter and John said, gold and silver have we none. We are broke, but I got something better than gold and silver. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, rise up. They reached and held his hand. And it was like the man had a springboard affixed to his feet. He leaped up.
Yes, sir.
Text does not say, but he could have asked, where are y'all going? They said, we going in the church, into the temple to have a word of prayer. The Bible said he was leaping and jumping and praising God. He could have went home. That was on an occasion when the Lord healed 10 lepers, but only one came to give God the glory. But this man went on into the temple of God. Leaping, in the Bible said he was praising God. Ain't that all right? Leaping and jumping and praising God. It's all right to shout if you got something to shout about. And as they go in the temple, Peter was so inspired, he took a text and started preaching. Ain't God all right? And the keepers of the house, the keepers of those in the temple became angry because Peter was preaching Jesus Christ, him crucified and resurrected. And so they put Peter and John and the lame man who was in the church for the first time in his life. They put them in jail. They had to stay in jail overnight. Ain't the Lord all right? You see, what I believe is that after God has blessed you, we ought to be like the lame man In verse 8, we ought to be jumping and shouting and thanking God for his goodness and for all that he has done for us. And this man went on in the Lord's house, praising God and giving him the glory. You see, we have a different kind of church person these days. You don't find too many on the outside, but they come inside and leave their minds outside. I wish I had somebody that could pray with me. They come in the Lord's house. They come in cuter than a peacock and sit down, and that's the end of it. They don't capture what the choir was singing about. They think that the deacons pray too long. And if you ask them the pastor's text, they would not be able to tell you. But you see, in this day, they come in the house, but not bringing their minds, their emotions, and their will in the worship experience. You know, if God has done something for you, it ought to be more than a stationary sit. It ought to be something more than a holy look. It ought to be something more than fancy dress wear. I know God has been so good to some of us. Need to jump up and thank him for his goodness, his kindness, his tender mercy. Ain't he all right? I know he all right. You see, God has blessed some of us to have a house that we had prayed for, and he gave it to us. Ain't that enough to be thankful and to give him glory? Somebody pray for a brand new car, and he blessed you. There ought to be enough to give him glory. Somebody pray for a promotion on the job. That ought to be enough to give him glory. Somebody pray to get out of the jailhouse, and you're in the church house now. You ought to jump up and give him glory. Somebody was sick in the hospital, and you said your prayers, and he brought you out. You ought to give him glory. Everybody in here was hell-bound. You don't hear me? Everybody in here was hell-bound. Paul said, all have sinned and come short of God's glory. You ought to jump up and shout hallelujah. He brought us a mighty long way. Didn't he bring us a mighty long way out of the jailhouse, out of the sick house, out of the gambling house? He brought us a mighty long way. All power is in his hand. Kept me from going to a burning hell. The Bible said that God so loved the world, sent his only begotten Son, and allowed him to die on a rugged cross in a place called Calvary, that I might have a right to eternal life. I want you to know that I'm saved. And I'm saved. That's why I can jump up. I can shout hallelujah. I can testify he brought me. He brought me. Did he bring you? He brought me. Yes, he brought me from a mighty long way. Ain't he all right? Yes, he is. He died on Calvary. Didn't he die on Calvary? Nails in his hand, nails in his feet, crown of thorns on his head, spear in his side, prayed for his enemies, gave up the ghost, buried in Joseph, brand new tomb. But early, on the first Sunday, Easter morning, he got up with all power, not some power, but all power to heal a lame man that was born lame. Then allow him to go in the Lord's house on the day of his healing, and allowed him to get arrested, then kept him overnight and got him out of jail. Ain't God all right? Oh yeah, if he has blessed you, God has done something for you. And if this time you're out of the ark of safety, I want to encourage you as we extend the invitation to come to the Lord. You can be inside, but your mind is outside. And if that's the case, pull your mind back in and come to Jesus. The Bible says he's the author and finisher of our faith. If you're unchurched, unsaved today, I encourage you to come. Take a seat in the chair. Oh yeah. Let us stand. Oh yes. Is there another here? I got so much to be thankful for. I got so much to be thankful for. Oh yes. I got so much to be thankful for. Oh yes. I got food to eat, a place to sleep, shoes on my feet, Jesus living in me. I got so much to be thankful for. Is there one here? Is there one here? You can come to the Lord. The Lord wants you. You can come to him. Your life would be better. Blessings, strength when you're weak, victory when you're in a captured situation. Is there one here that will make a decision and come to the Lord? Come on, choir, sing that. I got shoes on my feet. Oh yes. I got shoes on my feet. Hey. I got shoes. Oh yes. Jesus living in me. You ought to make a decision today. Jesus living in me. Make Jesus your choice.
intercessory prayer time. Oh, yes.
Just a few things about our church. Golden Baptist Church is a Bible-believing church. It is a church of common and concerned people when everybody is somebody. A church with a vision for ministry and religious education. And I do pray that the Word of God is as important to you as it is to us. For John chapter 1, verse 1 and 2 teaches us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. Verse 14 of that same chapter speaks of Christ. It says, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us,